we are concerned, APC chieftains, stalwarts and stakeholders who are concerned about upholding the rule of law, and and totally against abuse of executive and prosecutorial powers of government agencies. We, concerned chieftains, stalwarts, and stakeholders of the ruling All Progressive Congress (APC), find certain pertinent issues emanating from the matter between the former governor of Kogi State, Governor Yahaya Bello, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) to be quite unfortunate, most disturbing, and totally unacceptable in a nation governed by laws. Indeed, an unbiased assessment of the goings-on in this matter profusely showcase grounds for strong suspicion that while the public is being misled that the EFCC is trying to fight corruption, it is actually just a pretense in furtherance of a personal vendetta on behalf of and at the behest of persons in government intent on the bastardization of the institutions of state. The EFCC chairman, in a most bizarre and utterly absurd approach to law enforcement, confessed to having offered former Governor Yahaya Bello the option of passing through the back door of the commission's headquarters for preferential treatment in the chairman's own office. By the way, this highly irregular and most unorthodox offer was not even made via the proper invitation in the contemplation of law, but through the most irregular route of a mere phone call, according to the EFCC chairman himself. In the midst of this show of shame, the EFCC chairman then proceeded to appoint himself judge, jury, and executioner by transferring a case the agency he heads had purportedly filed in court to the court of public opinion, clearly in the hope of whipping up public sentiments against former Governor Yahaya Bello and unleashing mob justice on him. We find it most unprofessional and quite shameful that a lawyer would so brazenly seek to pervert the cause of justice by litigating a matter before the legal court of law in the illegal court of public opinion. A citizen in the position of former Governor Yahaya Bello, especially not being a lawyer, would naturally be suspicious of the gamut of shenanigans that have been machinated against him thus far, and be quite apprehensive that his traducers have something else in mind that is totally different from their quite laughable public position that they are fighting corruption. Well, it has been said that if you fight corruption, corruption will fight back. But this is clearly a case of corruption pretending to be fighting corruption. In short, it is clear that those intent on harming former Governor Yahaya Bello are so full of themselves as to appropriate our institutions of state for self-aggrandizement and the prosecution of their personal agenda rather than upholding the rule of law. Far from being our cherished agency we can rely on to rid our nation of corruption, the EFCC has only succeeded in thoroughly embarrassing our nation before the international community. This entire affair has become a mainstream media as well as a social media sensation, and it is all thanks to the EFCC bungling its absurd pretense of a case against former Governor Yahaya Bello. Seldom have we witnessed a more bewildering absurdity as the conduct of the EFCC in this matter. We must protect our institutions of state from abuse, and we must protect our government from ridicule. We most certainly do not condone corruption, and both individually and collectively, we oppose it in all its ramifications. But weaponizing an agency of government into an instrument of intimidation and deviating from its mandate, even to the extent of giving the highly disturbing impression that it has decomposed into a willing tool in the hands of people in power for the purpose of hounding their political enemies, is the most heinous form of corruption itself. Former Governor Yahaya Bello is most certainly not above the law. But so also is the EFCC not above the law. No one is above the law, and that is the motto of the EFCC. The EFCC is certainly not fighting corruption in this instance. You do not properly invite a man. You said you called him on the phone, offering to smuggle him through the back door. You do not inform another court of coordinate jurisdiction that you have been hitherto prior restrained from arresting, arraigning, or prosecuting him. You brazenly engage in forum shopping. You proceed in Gestapo fashion to carry out an illegal arrest. You secretly file an appeal out of time, according to your own admission in court. You then withdraw that appeal quietly, only for news of that withdrawal to filter out days later. Then, clearly realizing you do not have a case, you proceed to tarnish the reputation of a citizen you claim to have a case to answer by calling a press conference that was most unbecoming of a lawyer, a public official, and a government agency. We fight corruption according to law, and we subject any person of interest pertaining thereto to the due process of law in a court of law. Instructively, the party that has placed himself under the law and under the authority of the courts in this matter is former Governor Yahaya Bello, who has painstakingly and consistently followed the law throughout this process. On the other hand, the EFCC, in its usual manner, has insisted on deploying patently unlawful and utterly unbecoming approaches to this matter, in a manner most contrary to the rule of law, and one that is most unacceptably disrespectful to the judiciary. The rule of law must always prevail, because without the law, we would not have a society. And without cause, we will not have civilization. I thank you all for listening. To be fair to Governor Yahaya Bello, I'm not, what fair? Fair to, of course, it is obvious. It is obvious. The EFCC filed a case in court. Once you file a case in court, you wait for the court to decide. Then, to preempt the court, unilaterally, that is effectively, disrespects the court by withdrawing the case from court, effectively, not formally. Then he calls a press conference to litigate the same case in the court of public opinion. It is never done. Then he first starts with an 80 billion allegation, which former Governor Yahaya Bello is supposed to have misappropriated before he became governor. Then they amend the charges. And the amendment in the case that former Governor Yahaya Bello misappropriated 80 billion within 1 month of being in office. And the entire budget of Kogi State that year was not even up to that amount of money. They keep amending and amending and amending. It just gives the impression of complete and total bias. It is a make it up as you go situation. You know. So that the EFCC is an agency that is very, very dear to us as Nigerians. You know, it's an agency that we had hoped would help us fight this cancer of corruption in our country. But you can only uphold the law according to the law, because tomorrow it can be anybody's turn. Then somebody says because he is EFCC, if he backs, the rest of us are supposed to jump. Who are you? You will obey. You will follow the law. All of us must follow the law, or we will have anarchy. We will not have a civilization anymore. That is our stance. I don't know what is in his mind. I don't know what he's a former governor. He has served for 8 years. And he knows these people better than I know them. These people are just politically exposed persons whom Yahaya probably knows better than me. Whatever information he has gotten about what they might actually be planning, I'm not privy to. Do you understand me? Now, for whatever reason, he decided to approach the court. We have a right to approach the court, and that somebody approached the court cannot be evidence of guilt. Jesus Christ. How? It's our court. It's the people's court. That's just how it works. That's how the law works. Recognize state institutions for the prosecution of personal vendettas against other people must not be tolerated, because any one of us can be a victim tomorrow. I think we can I have some questions. Procedures of the agencies of state that are fighting corruption. And all of us in this party must respect him and key into the procedure in law for inviting, let's not even go up to the extent of a suspect, let's say a person of interest, is to formally invite them. And in law, we don't joke with documentation. We require a paper trail. Now, it is only if you cannot send someone a proper invitation by way of documentation that you might go by way of a phone call. In this case, former Governor Yahaya Bello is a former governor, for God's sake. How can the EFCC convince anyone that they could not have extended him a proper invitation in writing, so he himself would have documentation of the invitation? That would be his evidence. Then you call him. I mean, I've never seen a more bizarre press conference like the one the EFCC chairman called the other day. He was just indicting himself, point after point, that you called him on the phone. And what did you call him for? You told him that he should you would let him pass through the back door. That is, and it is so weird. The EFCC is spinning this narrative that the incumbent governor of Kogi State, Governor Usman Ododo, smuggled his predecessor from his residence. The EFCC has not provided any evidence that, one, Yahaya Bello was even in that residence at that material time. The EFCC has not even provided any evidence that Governor Usman Ododo was at that premises at that material time. You don't tell me that you saw a car, and that it is like saying that you saw my car outside Madame Koto's beer parlor. If it comes to former Governor Yahaya Bello being in the country,
since the EFCC hasn't followed due process, with respect to.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm not. Former Governor Yahaya Bello is in court, so the presumption is that he is in the country. I'm a chieftain of the APC. I'm not Yahaya Bello's lawyer. I'm not his spokesman. I'm not holding brief for him. Yes, I'm an APC supporter and a lawyer, and my concern here is upholding the rule of law. That's all. So now, however, to be fair to former Governor Yahaya Bello, he is in court. The presumption, unless someone has evidence that is not within jurisdiction, well, if a party is in court, that party is presumed to be within jurisdiction. Now, as for having for the EFCC not following the law and what they ought to do to rectify what they have done wrong, I am most certainly not the EFCC's lawyer, and I'm absolutely not under any. I don't even have any interest of advising them on what to do. They are a government agency. They have lawyers. They are the ones that went to brief lawyers that had hitherto been representing Muritala Ajaka of the SDP to prosecute former governor Yahaya Bello. I mean, that gives the public consense of conflict of interest. We have to be careful what government agencies do. It is the same learned counsel to Muritala Ajaka that is prosecuting a case for Usman Ododo's opponent in the last election, and now is filing charges against former governor Yahaya Bello. What impression are you giving to the public? I've not called a press conference, and you yourself confess that you were offering to smuggle that same human being through the back door into your office. My God, how do we embarrass our country to such an absurd extent?
God creation because I want to know if Mr. Bello.
Therefore, you can just barge into my house, open my door. No, I have a right to my privacy. Muslim brothers and sisters.